Boom, let's do it. Okay, I know I'm probably not what you expected. You were expecting to see Erica Reddick, the host of Generally Irritable. But she's generally occupied at this moment in time, and so you got me. Ben Reddick, aka A Darker Perspective. We're just going through a couple of headlines today, and I realize that today is kind of my inaugural news reading day. Comes a time in every man's life when he must pick up the burning torch of his forebears, stoke those embers, and run full tilt, stark raving mad into the darkness and bleak cold of the night. Might have lost you there. When I say cold, bleak, dark, I'm talking about Vermont, some of the policies being passed. We are in the heart of winter. The night is dark and full of terrors, ideologically and politically, and here we are. So we're going to read some of these things we're seeing with the Vermont Daily Chronicle, some really cool headlines here that are very disconcerting, to be totally honest with you. So, April 28th, bill would allow STD treatment for 12-year-olds without parental consent. Parents are only informed if the child is hospitalized. That means that your child can be out doing God knows what, and if they do get themselves infected from their actions, they can be treated and never have to tell you. You never know what's going on with your actual child. Basically, they can withhold the medical history of your child from a parent. I don't think that that's a safe thing to do. Sounds like a really bad idea. S-151 would allow a minor 12 years of age or older to consent to medical care for the prevention of a sexually transmitted infection, which would further remove parents from direct involvement in the health and well-being of their children. Now, this seems to be a pretty consistent tact and occurrence when it comes to dealing with children all over the country, that your children actually are autonomous and they're not yours to care for or yours to guide, shape, and mold. It is between those children and the state. And that's really a problem. We need to be fighting against that. The bill would also require the Green Mountain Care Board to review healthcare contracts and fee schedules between health plans and healthcare providers to increase transparency in healthcare, but not transparency with the parents. So that's what's going on there. Good stuff. You can read the rest of the article, Daily Chronicle, 10-page. We also have, April 24th, Vermont AG cracks down on auto theft, seeks recall of Korean cars. What does that mean? By Scott McClellan. Now, here we go. Attorneys general from 18 states, including Vermont, are asking for a federal recall of Hyundai and Kia vehicles. The letter sent to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration requests a recall of Hyundai and Kia vehicles manufactured between 2011 and 2022. The vehicles are particularly vulnerable to theft because of easily bypassed ignition switches and lack of engine immobilizers, the prosecutors say. Videos of teenagers stealing vehicles have spread across TikTok, because that's where we have to get our news from, TikTok. These vehicles have been stolen at high rates since 2021. Interesting. The thefts have frequently been accompanied by reckless driving because they're children and further criminal activity, causing at least 8 fatalities nationwide. Now, it's weird because it seems like the solution there would be proper policing of car thieves and prosecution of theft. But as we all know, that isn't really what many of these places are about. They are concerned about the optics. And so because of that, people continue to be basically vandalized and victimized because the people doing the criminalization don't really have any consequences for their actions quite frequently. They're let go. And this is another thing that we're seeing crossing the nation. When you do not enforce laws, you get more lawlessness. Pretty obvious. Pretty obvious. All right, next up, we got the Vermont opioid overdose deaths have doubled since 2019, Health Department says on April 20th, 2023. The number of accidental opioid deaths increased by 10% in Vermont in 2022, 239, from 2021, 217. They have more than doubled since 2019, 114, the Journal Opinion Daily Newsletter reports. The findings were published yesterday in a report by the Department of Health. While fentanyl was involved in 93% of 2022's fatal overdoses, the muscle relaxant gabapentin and xylazine, a veterinary drug, are increasingly present. Officials warn Narcan may not be as effective in reversing overdoses when gabapentin and xylazine are present. Excuse those pronunciations. I'm sure I'm not doing that correctly. There were 13 opioid-related overdose deaths in Caledonia County and 10 in Orange County in 2022, up from 1 in each county in 2010. So, yeah, the total number of opioid and non-opioid overdose deaths in Vermont have skyrocketed. Fentanyl continues to be a major concern for everyone in the country, and they need to do something about it. We're not seeing the type of movement we should be seeing about this. And per these death tolls here, there is a price being paid by Vermonters. So let's see here. And finally, good old Bitcoin Balint. Rep. Balint statement on passage of default on America Act, April 26th. Washington, D.C. Today, Rep. Becca Balint, a member of the House Budget Committee, voted against the Default on America Act. It's interesting she's on the House, Budget Committee, considering she's from a state that can't balance its own checkbook. But, it is what it is. A budget reflects our values, and we can plainly see where the Republicans' priorities lie. Their dangerous list of demands that passed the House today are reckless and clearly for political gain. But American families see through these games. Middle and low-income families care about the future of the economy, how they'll buy a house, lease a car, or pay for college. I'm concerned by this reckless and heartless move by Republicans. I plan to continue to work alongside my colleagues to block this plan and find a path to passing a clean debt limit bill, said Rep. Balint. Again, being divisive. Instead of working with the Republicans to move something forward that will be useful for the American people, she plans to work with her people, not do something bipartisan, and do what she thinks makes the most sense for Vermonters. She's on the budget committee, but it's interesting, as I said, because I don't know what she did to assist the budgeting happening here in Vermont, considering how poorly that had been handled over this particular period of time. Now, by refusing to act now, prevent a default, House Republicans are threatening an economic disaster, according to Balint, that will devastate everyday Americans. In Vermont, an extreme MAGA Republican default on our debt. And she continues and goes on because, of course, the topic of these conversations is always the fear-mongering of the MAGA. Well, Vermont is hurting, and I can tell you one thing. It is not because of the MAGA Republicans. It is because of individuals and representatives like Becca Balint, who think that they know better and have a disdain for the other side of the aisle. That's why. And folks, that's pretty much all we got today. Not the most positive news we like to bring you, but it is the news and it's what's going on. And thank you to the Vermont Daily Chronicle for getting out there and compiling this information. And that's what's been going on for the last week. And you know what? We'll be doing some more of these in the future, just keeping you up to date on what's going on in the city, in the state. And stay tuned for more things like this from Generally Irritable. And if you hear any crazy stories, feel free to email us at generallyirritable@gmail.com. We love to hear from you, love to engage with you. Take care. God bless.